So as of filming this, I am actually still halfway through what is possibly my last book, possibly the one before my last book of the month. And I'm not gonna lie, I really just want to get through filming this so I can go back to reading it because I'm enjoying it that much. Hi everyone, my name's Chloe, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for being here today. Today's video is going to be my August wrap up. As I just mentioned, I am still reading some books in August. It is currently the 28th of the month, but I do not have another day to film this before it needs to go up next weekend. So what I thought I'd do is tell you everything that I've read so far, and then I will film some quick clips that I can add in about the other books. Or book, I haven't decided. It depends how quickly I manage to read this one. Basically, if I manage to finish this book I'm reading today or tomorrow, I might be able to squeeze another one in, but I don't quite know yet. It all depends on how quick I read. But yes, I will tell you a little bit more about those in extra clips at the end. Right now, I'm going to tell you a few stats of my reading month. I have worked these out based on if I would have read the last book, although obviously when I get star ratings not quite as much, but for pages per day, if I finish the book that I'm reading at the minute, I will have read a total of 3,624 pages during the month of August, which is a nice improvement from last month. I've actually not read that many more books. When reading bigger books, I think there's a couple of fantasies on here, so it does mean that I will have read just under 117 pages per day, which is great because my aim is to always read 100 pages per day, and last month I was just underneath, so it's nice to be sort of back over the top of it now. For the year, I'm averaging 128 pages per day, so right on track. I'm feeling good about this. I am hoping to have read at least 8 books during the month of August. Again, potential for 9, but if I finish the one that I am reading at the minute, it's definitely 8. When I say if I finish, I definitely will finish it. There's no way I'm not finishing this book before the end of the month. Like I said, I'm desperate to get back to it, but we'll get on to that later. In terms of the age range that I'm reading this month, it's definitely been skewing more towards adult. I've read 3 YAs and then 5 adult books, and again, if I do pick up another book, I know I'm planning on picking up an adult, so definitely going more in that direction. I have found myself gravitating more towards adult books and adult fantasy recently, so reading taste changing a little bit because it used to all be YA contemporary, but I'm very much enjoying what I'm reading, which is great. Spoiler alert for later on in the video. But also onto whether or not I'm enjoying what I'm reading. Obviously, star ratings, I only have 7 books to tell you about so far because I can't tell you a rating for the one I'm reading at the minute, although hoping it's 5 stars. Although I'm only like 100 pages in and I already have an idea unless something drastically changes. But so far this month, I have read 3 4-star books. I will say that 2 of those were sort of like high 3-star going into 4-star, but then the other one was a high 4-star but almost a 5-star. And then I have read 4 5-star books this month, which is great. Like, it's always good when the majority of the books that you're reading get 5 stars. And sometimes when I give things 5 stars, it's to do with a bias as well. It might be like an all-through style I particularly love. This isn't that. This is mostly like new to me authors pretty much, and yet still I've given a lot of 5 stars, so I'm feeling really good about where I'm at with my reading this month. So, told you stats, told you numbers, let's actually talk about the books themselves. So the first book that I read during the month of August was a bit of a surprise, to say the least. I went into this book very intimidated. It's not particularly big, but just to do with what it is, it's a high fantasy, it's an adult high fantasy, it's part of a big series. It's not usually the sort of thing that I read. Heard a lot of people love it, but I thought I might be the exception and was worried that I was going to be the exception because, you know, you hate missing out on the fun. But I am happy to report that Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb got 5 stars. I loved this book. So this tells the story of Fitz, who is the bastard son of the Crown Prince, and basically he's being brought up by his mother, but then his maternal grandfather has had enough of paying his way and he leaves him on the doorstep of his father, the Crown Prince. Prince then decides to abdicate and run away with his wife, and then no one really knows what to do with Fitz until a little while later when they realise that he can be useful in becoming an assassin, hence Assassin's Apprentice. So essentially he is close enough to the royal family that he has access to things, but also is far enough away that he can be a little bit more secretive and can get away with doing the various sinister deeds that they want him to do. And this book is about him kind of training up in that. It's about him sort of just settling in within the royal family or in that setting. And it is the first of a trilogy that is part of a bigger series that has 16 books in total. So I have already bought the second book in this trilogy. I do plan on finishing this trilogy fairly soon, and then I do eventually, I assume, plan on reading all 16. I'm trying to catch up with the Catch Up Book Club, the Elderling Along. They are now on book 9, I think. So I'm hoping that if I can try and catch up by like the beginning of next year, and then I can at least read the last ones alongside them. But yes, I very, very much enjoyed this. There was something about just the writing style was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. High fantasy does tend to intimidate me because of the writing style and because I feel like there's going to be a lot of stuff kind of thrown at me that I'm just going to be expected to know. But this one was actually, it was more character driven than I expected it to be. It was a lot quieter, and I don't know if it gets more so as the series goes along in terms of like the magic and all of that, but that's fine because I've already now sort of established where I am in this world and I've entered it through sort of the character driven plot. So if they start bringing in more action and more lore and mythology, then I can be eased into it a little bit. And I think that's what I really liked about this, is just the way that it drew you into the story and drew you into Fitzel's life. So yes, very, very much enjoyed this book. So the next book that I read was also a 5 stars, and that was On a Sunbeam by Tillie Walden. I adored this. I flew through this in one sitting. It is a graphic novel, so obviously it is fairly easy to read in one sitting, but it is also a fairly chunky graphic novel, like compared to, I mean, this is the size of a normal graphic novel that I read, and this is the size of On a Sunbeam. There's a little bit of a difference. But this is a sci-fi, although again, very character driven. It's about a crew working on a spaceship, and their job is to go and sort of restore and rebuild broken structures, like sort of like as in restoring history. So they're looking at a museum for the majority of this book. But then there are also flashbacks to the main character when she was at school and her sort of first love while she was there. There's also like a little bit of politics going on there as well, but it's mainly just a coming of age story about this young girl and sort of, yeah, discovering her first love. And it's just a really beautiful story, and some of the artwork is stunning as well. I absolutely adored this book. I've been wanting to read some Tillie Walden for a while, but just hadn't picked any up. And then I saw this one in a bookshop, didn't buy it because it was a little bit out of my price range, but then saw it cheaper through Blackwell's, so ordered this, and I'm very happy I did because I really, really enjoyed this story. It's also queer, which is great. It features a female-female relationship. There are actually no men in this book. There are female characters and then there's also non-binary characters, but there is no discussion of men, so I don't know if they don't exist in this world or if they just don't exist in these characters. But within the school, within the crew on the spaceship, all female or non-binary characters, which, yeah, I just really, really enjoyed this story. Please read it if you haven't. It's a great graphic novel. So the next book that I read was my very high 4 stars, almost 5, but I do think the rest of the series has the potential to be a 5 stars, and that is City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. I very much enjoyed this book. I listened to the audiobook while reading along. This is an ARC, by the way. I got this years ago in an Illumicrate box and never got around to reading it, but it came up on my TBR and I'm very glad that it did. It's about a girl who is working as a healer, and she ends up finding out a little bit more about the sort of magic that she is able to do to heal people and how that might link back to the Jinn, and she goes to this magical city to find out more about it. And there's a lot of political intrigue in here as well, and I'm really bad at giving synopsis, but I very, very much enjoyed this book. The only reason it wasn't a 5 stars is it did just take me a little bit of time to get into it, but once it did get into the story, I really, really enjoyed it. So I have already purchased Kingdom of Copper, and I will be reading it as soon as possible, though possibly not next month because my TBR is already crazy, but hopefully in October I will be carrying on with Kingdom of Copper. And because the world's already set up, I feel like I'm going to enjoy that one a lot more because I'm already in that. I don't have to go through the slower beginning. So fingers crossed this is going to turn into a 5-star series. It's very, very close at the minute. The next book I read, I was pleasantly surprised by, because I thought this was a bit of a pointless sequel, and I've said that in previous videos, but I actually quite enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars, probably like a 3.5, but rounded up to a 4, and that was The Box in the Woods by Maureen Johnson. So this is the 4th book in the Truly Devious series, which is all based around the character of Stevie, who goes to an elite boarding school where everyone that goes there has like a passion or something like that, which is basically what they are studying. They are not studying the regular sort of school curriculum. Stevie in particular wants to become a detective. She's sort of like an amateur sleuth, and she ends up being brought in to solve this long-standing murder mystery that actually happened at the boarding school. First 3 books of the trilogy were following that storyline. This one now is that's been solved. So this one is about Stevie being invited to solve a mystery at a summer camp. She's about to go back to school, and it's sort of she's invited to go and solve another murder mystery. And I did enjoy it. Like I said, it was a 3.5 to 4 stars. I found the writing really good. I do love the characters, so I was still very invested in them. It was actually some of my favourites that were the main ones in this, because not all of Stevie's friends were able to go with her to the summer camp. It would have been slightly more unbelievable than it already was. My main sort of issue with this was actually the mystery itself. The mystery was good. It was very intriguing. As soon as they set it up, I was like, oh, I want to know more about this. But the way that it was revealed wasn't great. It felt like Stevie didn't actually do a lot of investigating. She was sort of just there for like 200 pages, and it's only a 300-page book, and she'd not actually done any sort of sleuthing at all, and then suddenly there was like 1 clue and she figured it out. It just felt very, very quick. It was, like I said, a much more intriguing mystery than the actual solving of the mystery was. I said this in my vlog when I was reading it, but I feel like the original trilogy dragged on a little bit too much, and that could have been done in 2 books instead of 3, and this one was a little bit too compressed and could have been done in 2 books instead of 1. So I feel like what should happen going forward is that she does like duologies of each of the mysteries, but I will probably read more if there are more books in this world, because I said in my TBR that if I didn't like this, I'd just forget that it existed and just have the trilogy. But I did enjoy it. I just will hope that the mysteries are a little bit more fleshed out going forward. The next book that I read was also like a 3.5 to 4 stars, and that was I Wish You All the Best by Mason Deaver. So this tells the story of Ben, who is a non-binary teenager who comes out to their family and is promptly kicked out of the house. They end up moving in with their older sister, who they haven't spoken to in 10 years since she left when she went to college and sort of never came back. And basically they just kind of want to get through senior year and get through to leaving school with no drama. But then they meet a boy. It's about the friendship and possible other relationship that builds up between them, as well as them sort of just coming to terms with everything that has happened in their life that has led to them being in this situation, and they're with their sort of very non-supportive and very awful parents. I did enjoy this book. I feel like a lot of the discussions were very important and handled very, very well. I feel like basically my actual issue with this book was that it stopped too soon. It kind of had all of this trauma, and it was quite a sort of heavy topics that were being discussed, and so it wasn't necessarily like the happiest book in a lot of places, which is fine. Like, I don't need books to be happy, but it also did then have this romance in there which had this happiness that was sort of just starting at the end of it, and I wish that we would have just had a little bit more of the afterness of that, because it was very much like rushed at the end, and I would have just liked to have sat a little bit longer with this character and seen them actually have a happier ending, because it was definitely leading towards that. Like, you can definitely see how their life would have improved after this book, but I just would have liked to have actually experienced it a little bit, if that makes sense. Like, I felt bad that I'd only seen the bad parts of their life. I don't know if I'm making sense, but yeah, I gave it 3.5. Like I said, I did enjoy it, and I will definitely pick up more by this author in the future. But yeah, I think I just wanted to hug the main character, and I just wanted them to be happy. So that's probably what it is that I didn't want to see all the pain, or if I did, I wanted some happiness to counteract it. And now we're gonna get on to my favourite books that I have read this month, and the book that I'm still in the middle of reading, because they are all part of one series. So in the last sort of 5 days, I think I have read Nevernight. I've also read God's Grave, and I am halfway through Dark Dawn. Well, I'm not, I'm about a quarter of the way through, but I will finish this one this month. That is the one that I'm determined to finish. And so far, this is a 5-star series. Both of these books got 5 stars. I love these. So let's try not to gush too much. But basically, Nevernight tells the story of Mia Kaveri. Mia's father was sort of betrayed and then executed, and she had to witness this when she was very young. At the beginning of this book, Mia is 16, she is out for vengeance, and she basically ends up trying to join a sort of society of assassins who are known as the Red Church. But to do that, she has to go through a training academy, and the first book is all about the training. It is very much a sort of, it's a competition type story. Basically, that the group of, they call them acolytes, who are all training, but only 4 of them actually get picked to become blades, which is the actual assassins. The rest of them kind of just get the boring jobs of serving people, but they don't actually get to go out and do the fun killing parts, I suppose. But so the first book is all about that competition element, and then the second one is about, the second one I can't tell you too much about because obviously there are events at the end of the first one that set this one up, but essentially it is about after the training academy and sort of where Mia goes next, and her finding out a little bit more about what actually happened when her family got betrayed all those years ago. And yeah, I love this. I love the writing style. It's very fast paced. It kind of just throws you right into it. It's told from, like, there's a narrator who is essentially talking to the reader and telling you the story, so they call you like gentle friend throughout the entire thing. There's footnotes in here to sort of give you extra world building, so it's not sort of just thrown into the story. It's like, oh, if you want to read this, it's down here as well. And I know it's not for everyone, but I am really enjoying it. It's gory as hell. There's some smut scenes in here as well. It's just, I can't explain why I love it so much, but I just do. And I've had Nevernight for years and just never read it, never picked it up. And basically from, I think I was about 100 pages into this when I ended up ordering the other 2, because I knew that I needed to complete this series. So yes, 5 stars for both of these. Fully expect this one to be 5 stars. I also know that people have sort of been, I know people are generally fairly like shocked by it when you get towards the end of this book. I feel like some people are broken by the end of this book. I don't know. I don't really know what to expect, but we will see, because hopefully I will have finished this one in the next couple of days, and I will insert a clip here with my final thoughts. Okay, so inserting a quick clip here to say I finished Dark Dawn. I read this entire thing in a day. I gave it 5 stars. I love this series so much. I will say that the ending I really enjoyed, but I can understand why some people wouldn't love it. I think that if you're not sort of necessarily emotionally attached, you might be a little bit annoyed by the ending, but I very much enjoyed it. And yes, I don't really have much else to say other than what I've already said about this series, but all 3 of them were 5 stars, so it's a new favourite for sure. I'm now even more excited to read Empire of the Vampire next month. Back to the rest of the video. But yes, that is everything that I read. I read a decent amount of books and also started some series that have been intimidating me for a little while, so I'm quite happy with where I finished up this month, and also just very happy with where I finished up because obviously I finished up reading some books that I really enjoyed. So this is my pile of books that I read this month. It's nice when you get to sort of see it all together. But yeah, definitely makes me happy just to look at sort of what I have read and enjoyed this month. Can you tell that I've just really enjoyed reading this month? That's what's been so great about it. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff down below. Let me know how your August reading went, and I will see you guys next time with a new video. Bye!